What's left over?
Okay. Potential way to fund
It says mine will be corporate. So, but it's clear that it's that. Is it clear that it's that? If it says it was on the road or is it I don't know if there's anything on that is my question. Is it warnings and before the that's a good point. That's something to fix tomorrow.
Right. Let's not.
I do have 7 o'clock. I'd like to bring the July 13th Shelby County Board meeting to order. So we will start out with the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the prayer. All rise and give our hats. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We all bow our heads. Your Father in heaven, as we gather tonight to discuss and take action on business of the county, we just ask for your guidance and and that we may be clear-minded, slow to speak, and speak with definition and authority to the matters that we have tonight. Father, we're thankful that we can all be here. We're thankful for our health and the weather that has replenished our area with the rains recently, so we're thankful for that. And all these things we pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Roll call, please.
Mark Bennett. Teresa Bain.
Yeah.
Cody Brandt.
Here.
Tim Brown.
Here.
Carol Cole.
Yes.
Charles Davis. Julie Edwards.
Here.
Martha Fernhaber.
Here.
Clay Hardy. Matt Kessler.
Here.
Annette Martin.
Here.
Tad Mayhall. Keith McCormick.
Here.
Tim Morse.
Here.
Lori Nelson. David Ogden.
Here.
Bobby Orman.
Here.
Sonny Ross.
Here.
Mitchell Shutt.
Here.
Don Tate.
Here.
Brent Wallace.
Here.
Jeremy Williams.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum, thank you. Item 3 is approval of minutes from June 8th. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Jeremy makes a motion to approve the minutes. I get a second. Matt makes a second. Discussion on the minutes from June 8th. Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 4 is approval of the minutes from the June 27th special board meeting. Motion to approve. Dave makes the motion to approve. Martha seconds the motion. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Up next, we will bring up item number 8, which is John Hippert, Chris Overbeck, to discuss ARPA funds for expansion of Shelby County Emergency Service Responder Radio System. Just as a quick overview, this is a discussion and informational thing that we've actually addressed in the 911 board meeting the other night, and there's a lot of information that needs to be unpacked, and a lot of things that were revolving, and I'd like to open the floor up to these gentlemen to bring us up to speed with what's going on.
Hello, my name is John Hippert. I'm the Assistant Chief of Tower Hill Fire Department. The fire districts in Shelby County are part of a mutual aid system referred to MAPA 64. Recently, a county board member approached our MAPA's division and was asking if we as a county-wide group was in need of anything for our operations, and we all agreed that we've consistently had radio communication problems for the 911 system for several years. The 911 radio system is used countywide for the dispatch and communications of all the county fire departments, Shelby County Rescue, the ambulance services, and Shelby County Dive. Numerous volunteer fire and rescue personnel respond each day, sometimes in their personal vehicles, and need not only to receive the page clearly, but to be able to talk back to dispatch and command on the scene. And they're utilizing portable radios, kind of like what I've got here. And this 5-watt radio, it's got very limited distance communication-wise. The repeater towers throughout the county pick up this signal and are able to help us all communicate countywide. We feel that the need to make some upgrades to the 911 radio system because even some of the mobile radios are struggling to get into the county system from down around Cowden. Herrick has added their own tower, but I know that it's constantly, we're hearing Windsor and Cowden in different areas struggling to even be able to make a communication with dispatch. And it's not only frustrating, but it's a safety factor for the people that we're trying to work with to rescue, or, you know, for our responders if they need some assistance. Several of the area departments have worked together along with Chris Overbeck from GTSI And we have secured additional grain elevator legs, water towers, and additional tower structures that we can have access to for mounting antennas, that we can have more adequate radio coverage. Our existing system consists of 5 repeaters that covers the entire county. And you'll see on a map that Chris is going to talk about here in a minute that shows how there's a lack of coverage in several areas. The existing system it has 5 repeaters, with the main site being located west of Tower Hill. In this upgrade that we'd like to talk about, we would like to see an additional main site purchased and installed in the Shelbyville spillway on the tower down here by the spillway to help prevent issues that we had during a recent storm a few weeks ago, where we lost all paging capability from 911 at Taylorville. In addition to the new site, we would like to add 10 new repeaters across the county. The equipment and labor numbers that we have currently are strictly a budgetary number only. You can see that on your spreadsheet at the front of your packet. It's pretty close to $600,000, but that's strictly a budget number. We haven't done any actual site survey to determine what needs to happen at each location. There's going to be a lot of additional legwork that it won't cost you anything for that site survey, but it's going to be a lot of work for GTSI that if this isn't a doable thing, we don't want to have them complete all this. In addition to all the equipment and labor that this $600,000 represents, it's also numerous hours of FCC paperwork that has to be filed that they would take care of in that. And also, in each of these sites, there would be a power transfer switch installed so that in the event that we had power outages for days at a time like we've recently had, depending on where the outage was, the fire department could take a generator out and easily plug in and take care of that power problem. By utilizing that transfer switch, there'd be no, harm done to any equipment. It could just be powered by the generator for the time being. Something also to consider is that by redesigning and making changes proposed to the 911 system, we could save the county more than $600 per month in tower rent by purchasing some additional equipment to modify the sheriff's current repeater system. There is what we refer to as the Cromwell Tower north of Finley that currently houses repeaters for both the sheriff and 911, that if we added to his system, we could get him better coverage by moving off of that tower, and we could do away with that $600 a month recurring cost. And at this time, I'd like to have Chris come and talk to you about the coverage maps that he's presented.
So in front of you here, we have the different coverage. The first map you'll see is Shelby County's existing talk out to the radios, to the portable radios. This is the towers talking out to the portable. So if you look, the second map would be our proposed talk out by adding some more transmit sites to allow for mobile to receive 911 or radio traffic from throughout the county. The next coverage map is Shelby County's existing talk-in coverage from a portable. As you can see, there's a lot of dead spots in the yellow that is just absolutely no communications whatsoever. And a lot of those are down in the creek bottoms. Up in Windsor, there's an issue. Up by Finley's quite a bit an issue. And then the last coverage map is the Shelby County proposed talk-in from a portable. The different colors indicate the darker green is in-building heavy construction. The lighter green is lighter construction in building coverage. The gray is outdoor coverage with the portable on your side using a speaker mic. And then the blue is portable coverage with the actual radio up head high. So that just gives you an idea of what the different colors stand for in this studies. We worked with the fire departments and sat down and got a lot of different tower locations, structures, and we were able to plug them into this mapping software and get an idea of what we needed to cover the area to make the system work pretty much everywhere in the county. So, any questions on that?
Questions of the board?
How long have we been paying for rent on Cromwell Tower?
It's been since the sheriff got his grant back in, what was that, 2010 maybe? 2009? I'm not exactly sure. It's been a while. So, at first, the Cromwell Tower, I know this because I was in kind of the communications with it. The Cromwell Tower, first they allowed them to be on it for just maintaining the property and keeping it clean, sprayed, and mowed. Well, then they got all new management, and I believe that's when it started, okay, well, we're gonna make money on this. So, so then they decided to go with the fees, to be honest.
So we've probably spent over $100,000 just in rent since that has happened.
Possibility, yeah. So,
So,
yes.
This final map, this is
Yes.
handheld portable coverage?
Portable coverage,
Okay.
yep.
And so this blue up here in this corner of our
That is
county-
still coverage, but the blue is where you're talking with portable on up to the head. In a lot of these districts, they go outside the county so we're kind of looking at that. I know like Findlay, they have Windsor has a lot of area up in the Moultrie County area, but they use the Shelby County system to talk into it. So it looks like it overlaps into other counties, but that's because their fire districts expand into other counties.
yeah, so the whole point of this conversation is to bring it to the board's attention that in order to undertake a project like this, I mean, if you look at the front page, it's a $600,000 number. I don't want to speak out of turn per se, but there's been discussions that being this is a 911 system, the 911 board would work with the county in the cost of this. When we go back to operational day-to-day, once this is all installed and operational, then 911 would be in charge of maintenance. So, I mean, the reason for this is so 911 can talk to our emergency responders, and so that's the relationship here. The county's part of it is we do have the ARPA funds that we can supplement this project with to bring us up to speed one fell swoop, and create better service for our constituents. But is there anything else like you guys want to touch on?
How much would the maintenance fee be?
You typically on maintenance for the 911 after the system is installed, it'll be 6% of the equipment cost, not labor and so on. The equipment cost per year is typically what a maintenance contract would be. Now, some folks don't do maintenance contracts, some do. But that's to give you an idea of what a normal, typical maintenance contract on a system.
But that would be through 911, not us.
Correct.
And everything that you put in is going to be digital upgradable.
That is correct. And the current 5 sites that are there now, they are also digital upgradable for the future. And there's not a set date on when the FCC is going to make everybody go digital. but it's coming. And we're trying to prepare everybody now so that at last minute, they're not looking for funding and stuff to make that switch.
So,
Have those conversations been had with 911 that they are willing to accept this additional responsibility?
right, Monday night, we had a discussion with the 911 board, and there's not been any, of course, this is the first time this board's heard about it, so there's no obligation, there's no, commitment from here. There's no definite commitment from there, but verbal commitment of, we'll share these costs, and then it's only traditional, I'll say, that once these sites are all built and operational, then 911 is responsible for maintaining those. It is their system. We would just be getting that expedited financially.
But this is gonna add additional financial burden to their budget.
Which I do believe the 911 board, at 6% of even 600,000, we'll just use a nice round number, that's 36,000 a year. I'm pretty sure the 911 board has sufficient funds to maintain that for years to come. So, I had a hand over here.
If they switch to digital in the future, how does that change the coverage?
So the coverage is still the same. It is, the difference between digital and the analog is, let's just say, back when you had the analog cell phones, you get out to the scratchy areas, you can still make out what the person's saying, but then it finally goes away. Now digital, you have perfect conversation up to the point where there's nothing. So it digitizes your voice. And so they call it the digital knee. There's digital cliff. And you have perfect communications anywhere where it's scratchy and you can't even make out the person on analog, you still have perfect coverage on digital.
When you say sharing the cost, is the 911 board in this board potentially sharing the 600,000, or we're covering the 600,000 and then they're responsible for the maintenance?
No, it would be the number on the front page, that 600,000 would be split. We just need to determine, one, if we want to go this route. Two, what funds we want to put at the project, whether it be 50%, 75%, 25%, whatever it may be. And then we would communicate with the 911 board as far as, okay, this board's in for this much. Can the 911 board, make up the rest and so on. There's some things that we discussed Monday night that I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but originally these numbers were significantly less, this big number on the front page. Some things have changed, conversations have changed, but correct me if I'm wrong.
The master site was not included in that number, I don't believe.
That is accurate.
So that's where 50,000 of the increase would come from.
So, and right now we're looking at worst case scenario of replacing the head of the site and not reusing any of our existing sites, correct?
No, that is building upon. This number is building upon the 5 that are there.
Okay. Any other questions?
Because that's all new technology as of a couple, 3 years ago, 4. So it was the new technology. It's the digital capable, upgradable. So.
I see on here it says 6 department reprogrammed, so Findlay Fire, Windsor Fire, the departments that use that system are going to be reprogrammed in this?
Yes.
So we're not going to do something that's going to cost fire protection districts additional costs.
That's why we tried to build all the what-if possibilities into that number to give an overall worst case.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. Do you have anything? I was not to interrupt you.
No.
How is this going to affect all of our emergency dispatch, ambulance, fire, sheriff, local police, how is this going to affect that?
I mean, it should do nothing but improve communication amongst everybody, because everybody will be on the same channel. Nobody will have to be trying to figure out which tower they're trying to get into, which is the way a few of the departments still are. They kind of operate around their home base on a certain channel in their radio. It's all on the same system, but it's on their own tower, and they have to physically figure out which tower they're closest to and able to communicate with everybody else when we're doing a large scale, situation where we've got mutual aid going to different towns, and that can cause some confusion. That's what the purpose of reprogramming on the radios is, so that everybody's on the same channel. When you look at your radio.
So those current fire departments that have the receivers, is what we're going to call them, to help boost their signal in, they bought those with their money to help boost the signal in, but it doesn't help. It helps some, but when they get away from that, they have to go and change the channel to find back onto the countywide system, where this would be no change of channels, and the reprogram is to take all that out of there so that they can't get confused on what channels are what and so on in their radios. So that's what the reprogram for those departments that have put in makeshift repeaters to help boost their signal.
Any other questions on the board?
Thank you.
There was something. I'll ask it later. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, in the future, timeline, that's what I was going to ask you guys. I know that there's been discussions of the allocation of ARPA in the next, 6 or 8 months, and that was probably cutting it short. We've got to the end of 24 to allocate the funds and through 26. So what kind of time frame, if we would pull the trigger on a project like this, how long would it take for you guys to execute it?
With all the ARPA funding that's going on right now, we've got a lot of systems to build out. Probably the end of 24.
So we have time to, and end of 24 is if you start now. That's correct. So roughly an 18-month project. All right, moving on. I'd like to go to item 10, which is the discussion and vote to approve the appointment of Scott McKee as EMA Director. I'd like to appoint Scott as EMA Director. Sonny makes the motion, Martha seconds. Scott, is there any questions of Scott before we open the floor up? Yes,
I got questions, but go ahead, and then I'll ask.
Scott, go ahead.
No, I was just getting up to answer any questions that anybody had.
All right, all in favor of the appointment, say aye.
I have questions.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. How many hours a week will he be the EMA, and how many hours will he be the zoning person?
Ideally, both together, no more than 20 hours per week as a part-time employee.
You can do both jobs with 20 hours a week.
Yes. The zoning office, with the exception of all the ordinance work that I put in, I'm looking at maybe 5 to 10 hours a week tops with the zoning. There will be initially a lot of time put into the EMA office because I have to be trained in certain areas and take courses. But beyond that, the day-to-day maintenance of both positions should be minimal. So I don't see any reason why 20 isn't enough.
Okay, will they do the same hours every week, same days?
No, it will be a rotating schedule because I'm a full-time firefighter here.
That's what I was going to ask, if you're going to keep your other jobs and stuff. So.
Yes, absolutely. No, so I have a cell phone now through the county, and I will be available 24/7 with that for the EMA position. And I can leave my job if I need to. I can have someone cover my position there and I can do anything that the EMA office needs. But overall, 20 hours a week.
Okay. Okay. Is there a contract for this EMA position then for him to sign?
Negative. No,
Okay, what is the compensation for it? Because it doesn't say anything here about the money.
It's the same as what he's making as zoning director is what he'll make as EMA director. So So what I said was the same as what he's making as zoning is what he will make as EMA. And it's just the simple function of when he's doing EMA work, he bills the EMA budget, and when he's doing zoning work, he bills the zoning budget. With that said,
I don't know
this
what
is-
that is. I've never been told what that is.
$22 an hour.
22 an hour. Okay,
23.
okay. That's all I want.
With that said, we've had extensive discussion, him and I have, as far as, if something becomes very overwhelming, that we will look frivolously to get somebody in there to do one or the other job. So this is something that he thinks that he can handle, and I think he can handle it. So, we talked about it, and if things don't work in the future, then we will revisit this and readjust.
Absolutely. If for some reason that's not working out, you guys will be the first to know, and I will work with you to fill one of the positions.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. At this time, I will go back to item 5, closed session, the county board pursuant to ILCS 5-120-/2, C2, collective negotiating matters. I think it will be easier if the board vacates and maybe possibly goes to court meeting. Is there any other ideas? I think it would be just as well to, I think it'd be easier for the board to vacate.
That's what Jessica did that.
No?
I can do it, yeah. You're right, it'd be easier.
I'm just throwing the idea out there. We need the recorder.
Yeah, but it's no big deal. I can plug it in on there.
All right, motion to go to closed session. Sonny, seconded by Jeremy. All in favor say
No.
roll call, please.
Yeah. Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Banks,
Yeah.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaber,
Yes.
Matt Kessler,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Keith McCormick,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson, David Ogden,
Yes.
Bobby Warman,
Yes.
Sunny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Shutt,
Yeah.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Brett Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. No.
about it.
We already had pizza. That's what we went
I think Chronicles delivers. Yeah.
Don't tell.
Joe's. I'm about ready to call Joey John, please. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Okay, I believe we're all back. We entertain a motion to go back into open session. No? There she is. Okay, if you're not here, please say so. Okay, now I entertain a motion to go back into open session. Motion by Martha, second by Don. Roll call, please.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bank,
Yeah.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Here.
Carol Cole,
Here.
Julie Edwards,
Here.
Martha Bernhaber,
Here.
Matt Kessler,
Here.
Annette Martin,
Here.
Keith McCormick,
Here.
Tim Morse,
Here.
Lori Nelson,
Here.
David Ogden, Bobby Orman,
Here.
Sonny Ross,
Here.
Mitchell Sheff,
Here.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Brent Wallace,
Here.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
So item 6 is discussion of vote to authorize state's attorney in conjunction with the sheriff to negotiate terms and conditions MOU. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Sorry. Motion by Jeremy, seconded by Cody. Discussion.
Did I just miss what we sat through? Are we ready to
I didn't think so.
So, vote is-
negotiate?
Vote. That's why I asked for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I tabled this. I'm the only one that is allowed to take it off the table.
That's correct.
I'd like to skip item number 6.
Withdrawal motion. Jeremy withdraws the motion, the second will be withdrawn as well. 6 is being held on the table.
Everything's tabled. You tabled it?
No, Sunny tabled it, he's not taking it off the table,
Okay.
so it's being held. Item 7 is discussion and vote to approve an additional assistant state's attorney to be added to the state's attorney's office, making a total of 2 assistants. Martha makes the motion, seconded by Matt. Discussion on the matter. Any questions before we get into discussion? So all this does is it creates, it's the board action necessary for the additional assistants in the office. There isn't anything currently, as Bruce just let me know a few minutes ago, that there's nothing in the 3-month budget. There could be something in the 12-month budget that hasn't worked out yet. So if it's not in the budget, it's not, it's not a capable thing. However, if the board approves of this, and this is something that we have the delegation to do, is how many assistants does the state's attorney get to hire, is incumbent upon the board. So that's why I asked you to put it on here, is to have the ability to have a second state's attorney. Julie.
Last year, when we were having discussions about the labor disputes,
Did Nicole at that time, she budgeted for an extra attorney? Does anybody else remember that? Was that gonna be a special prosecutor or was that an assistant?
There's 2 lines in the budget. Last year, there was 2 lines in the budget for assistants. However, the board never took action last year to allow the second assistant to be there.
So she recognized the need for a second assistant in that office.
Yes.
After sitting through what we just sat through downstairs, and there's nothing in a 3-month budget for this, why would we do it now? Why wouldn't we wait and see what's gonna shake out with everything else before we move forward with this right here?
So the ability to have a second assistant does not mean that he can. do a second.
I understand everything you
Right.
just said, but after sitting through what we just sat through and listening to and stuff, and with the 3-month budget coming up, and then there'll be a 12-month budget, why don't we see where we're at with everything before we do this?
Can we table this?
Good.
I make a motion to table
I second it.
item 7.
Carol makes a motion to table, seconded by Teresa. All in favor of tabling, say aye.
Can we roll call that,
Aye.
Mr. Chairman?
Roll call.
Okay.
Mark Bennett,
No.
Teresa Bain,
Yes.
Cody Brandt,
No.
Tim Brown,
No.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
No.
Martha Fernhaber,
No.
Matt Kessler,
No.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Heath McCormick,
No.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
No.
David Ogden,
No.
Bobby Orman,
No.
Sonny Ross,
No.
Mitchell Shep,
No.
Don Tate,
No.
Brett Wallace,
No.
Jeremy Williams.
No.
Motion to table fails, 15 nays, 4 ayes, Bain, Cole, Martin, and Morse.
Okay, so moving forward with the discussion on the original motion. Any other questions? Go ahead, Ed.
Bobby, with the making 2 assistants available, that does not broaden the state's attorney's budget, correct? They still have to work within the confines of,
It would still be in the confines of the budget,
yeah.
and we would be
that's-
approving that budget next month, well, in 4 months.
I'm just saying it doesn't add another person payroll.
It's not guaranteed, no. It's just the ability to. And there's, when the transition happened, there was a plethora of cases that were being addressed, and Nicole recognized that as well, that there was a significant backlog of cases, and there's significant need for the ability, at least, to handle increased number of cases.
Is a yes vote on this item actually hiring a second assistant state's attorney? This is simply giving the current state's attorney the ability to bring back to this board a person to hire?
Nope. No, it simply says that he can fulfill the second position, the second assistant.
So long as that state's attorney stays within the budgetary confines established by this board.
Mhm. All in favor of the second assistant state's attorney, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
No.
Raise your hand, please.
Those of Bain, Carol, Annette, and Tim. Motion carries. Up next is item 11, which is county highway report, discussion and vote to approve the following items. Matt, do you want to take the floor on any of this?
If there's any questions, I'm glad to.
So on the agenda, it says 50/50 petition of Ash Grove Highway Commissioner to replace concrete culvert located 3.5 miles south of Windsor with arch-shaped CMP, which is estimated to cost $67,2743. I'd make a motion to approve the 50/50 petition. I have a second by Martha. Any discussion, questions on this petition? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Banks,
Yeah.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaver,
Yes.
Matt Kessler,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Keith McCormick,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
David Ogden,
Yes.
Bobby Warman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Schapp, Don Tate,
Yes.
Brent Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next is a resolution to renew a 25-year term easements for continued maintenance of County Highway 3 with the Army Corps of Engineers. I entertain a motion on that. Dave makes the motion, seconded by Jeremy. Questions, comments about the easement with the Army Corps? Matt, do you have any details on this particular thing?
No, we didn't, it was quite a packet. I guess this is just something that the Army Corps needs to do the work here. So, I think Carol Cole knew more about it than I did. So, this comes around every
25 years.
25 years.
Rich Mokel was the last person that agreed to this easement. They told me there's like 8 different places, and it's like on Finley Road, most of it. It was more of a formality than anything. They just.
Does this cost us money or make us money, or is simply
Nothing.
nothing?
Just like
Okay.
a formality.
Easements are generally a grant of use.
There's nothing.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is engineering services agreement with Gonzalez Companies LLC for Moequa Bridge, estimated cost of $76,800. Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Bobby.
Tim Brown makes the motion, seconded by Jeremy. Any discussion on this service agreement for the Moequa Bridge?
Yes.
Mark?
Is this for the existing bridge that they're working on at
Correct.
present?
Yes.
And,
The agreement with Gonzalez is a time and material agreement. We asked them for a time and material agreement. In the event we have somebody that can come in from the county and do the work, this is their max cost. It's gonna come in, we believe it's gonna come in below this, just so we know. But this is just the max cost that they have to specify.
Can I ask, interject here for a second? This line item says, engineering services agreement with Gonzalez Companies LLC. That's referring to engineering services, not necessarily construction of bridge. I don't know if your intention was the construction of bridge, or is it just solely the engineering?
This is the engineering services, so it's the overseeing of the project. It's being constructed by a contractor called Sea Hill, but this is our engineering oversight on behalf of the county as it's being constructed.
that was the reason for my question, because it said engineering instead of construction.
Any other questions on the engineering service agreement? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Time out, roll call, please.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Banks,
Yeah.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaver,
Yes.
Matt Kessler,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes. Keith McCormick,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson, David Ogden,
Yes.
Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Sheff,
Yeah.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Brett Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, next is employment agreement with Timothy Baumgarten as highway foreman, resolution, IDOT Form BLR 02210, certifying the name of Michael Tuck.
You're,
That's two different.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's different.
Okay, yep. Yep. So first is employment agreement with Timothy Baumgarten as highway foreman. Motion. Tim Brown makes a motion, second by Keith McCormick. Discussion. Teresa.
I've never seen the agreement. What does the agreement say? How much does he make per hour and all that kind of stuff?
He is identical to the previous foreman, off the top of my head. I didn't put this item on here, so didn't think it needed to be approved because our acting engineer hired the gentleman, so, but I'm glad to talk about this. He's a non-union employee.
I understand that. I understand he's already started.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. Just as, because he was hired by the acting engineer. So I'm not sure why this is on here.
Yeah, got the agreement, I thought it, I just, you know,
She's acting as head of agency, so.
I mean,
don't-
that's, you can pull it, I don't care. I just wanted
I'm not
to,
sure why it's on here for discussion, but it's $34 an hour, which is what the previous foreman made. The foreman is a tremendously responsible position, managing 6 men, the day-to-day maintenance of the highway department, maintenance department, so.
Tim, you want to withdraw your motion?
Yes.
Motion has been withdrawn. And we'll move on to resolution IDOT Form BLR 02210, certifying the name of Michael Tappendorf to sit for the county engineer exam. Motion by Martha, seconded by Sonny. Any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 12 is discussion and vote on approval of increase in the salary of the public defender to the new salary of $137,620,155 and the sheriff's new salary of $122,330.26. Due to the increase in the state's attorney's salary to $152,912.83, and this is all based off of 55 ILCS 534,007, effective July 1st. So this would be a retroactive action. And just so everybody knows, there's lots of new board members in here. This is a statutorily state thing that's been just is passed down to the county. So entertain a motion to approve of item 12.
So moved.
Mark makes the motion, seconded by Jeremy. Open up the floor for discussion. Any questions? Son?
This reads that these increases to the public defender and the sheriff are because of an increase to the state's attorney's office. Is that true?
Yes. All of those are state determined and passed down. And they're
And that increase to the state's attorney's office came from 55 ILCS? Okay.
now, Sheriff, are you? And he's like, Sheriff, is your salary subsidized like the state's attorney's?
66%.
Yeah, so there is a state subsidy more or less to these salaries, so it's not like we're getting mandated by the state, and unfunded mandate, if you will. So
This isn't an increase that we caused. This is an increase caused by state statute.
that's correct. Any other questions, discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Vane, Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaber,
Yes.
Matt Kessler,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Keith McCormick,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
David Ogden,
Yes.
Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Sheff, Don Tate,
Yes.
Brett Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item 13 is vote, discussion and vote to approve lease agreement with the Shelby County Community Services for storage facility located the southeast corner of South Morgan and South First for $6,000 per year beginning 8/1/23 through 7/31/24. Correct me if I'm wrong, is this kind of the dungeon, if you will, the hole where we keep all our records? Yeah, so this is something where we've been, just a renewal.
Actually, we've never paid them anything. So this is kind of new, but the building's full, and I don't know where we put everything if we don't lease something.
If you've ever been in the basement, there's 4 rooms down there as well, so that current state of things, I don't know where we're going either. Mark?
Do you have any idea how many years we've been storing stuff
Oh,
in there?
God, probably at least 15, I'd say at least 10, 15 years.
Okay, and do you have any idea what square footage of it is?
No.
The reason I'm saying this is because going forward, that's $500 a month. Yes, we have use of it, but I'm looking going
It's-
forward every year.
It's an old, it's building down straight across from the post office. It's a big white building. It used to be, in the very olden days, a laundromat.
Is it climbing tempo?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so I entertain a motion to approve item 13.
I'll do it.
Teresa makes the motion, get a second by Julie. Any other further discussion?
Where's that money coming from?
Where is that money coming from? Does that come out of 029 contingency, or?
I would imagine it would, because unless, you expect, like, basically myself, the treasurer, and the circuit clerk, to split that amongst our budgets.
Yeah, it's
But there's also old county board stuff down there too, so I guess some could go to the county.
029.
Can we get rid of it?
No, we have.
It's a conglomeration of several offices and.
So it's officially for the finance committee, it's going to come out of 029?
Yes,
Okay.
for the time being.
What was your question?
But as far as the finance committee, we needed to know for sure which budget it's coming out of.
So it'll come out of the 029, which is the funds not divided, basically. Since we've got numerous offices using their storage space, at least for the time being, we can deal with that. And we could also, pull out ARPA funds too, possibly. But I'm not sure about that.
Let's forget we even have ARPA funds.
So, anyway, I have a motion and a second. Jeremy?
I had 2 questions. You said the records are stored in the basement?
No.
No.
There are records in the basement of the courthouse, but what is down in the storage facility, I think it's like all the old tax records. We constantly have title searchers going down there and looking at those. It's other county records. It's stuff that we can't destroy for 7 years. We destroy as we can. It's stuff that we have to keep forever. It's stuff the circuit clerk has to keep. So it's a lot of counting history down there.
Okay. Why have we used it at no charge for so long and all of a sudden?
I think because of the people that were involved previously in things, and there's some new management at community services, and I think that they want to, cover themselves as well as make sure that we're covered as well. And instead of a gentleman's handshake and a verbal agreement, people are wanting to put things in paper.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of documents.
I know, I'm just saying it's a.
But can we digitalize it? Can we start digitalizing some of this stuff?
I checked on some of that, and it was in excess of $500,000. And that's not even gonna touch what's down there, and there is stuff that has to be kept until we get permission from the state to destroy.
It's just an ongoing problem. I mean, it's just gonna, $600 a month for 16.
So that's, yeah, it's $500, but $6,000 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, you know, if we're paying $6,000 a year for storage, perhaps the building would have some subsidized funds to, you know, be kept maintenance-wise, and our record to be protected.
Maybe try to find a building to purchase.
There's always these things we look at down the road too.
Well, we talked about, you know, because we own that grassy lot over east, whoever way that is, yeah. You know, discussions have been had before about building a big storage facility over there with a portion for the sheriff, because he's got stuff he's got to keep forever. You know, portion for like the other offices, circuit clerk, anybody else that might need storage. They each kind of have their own unit, but I mean, those costs are also exorbitant, so.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bain,
Yep.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
Yes.
Julie Edwards,
Yes.
Martha Fernhaber,
Yes.
Matt Kessler,
Yes.
Annette Martin,
Yes.
Keith McCormick,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
Yes.
Lori Nelson,
Yes.
David Ogden,
Yes.
Bobby Warman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Shuff,
Yeah.
Don Tate,
Yes.
Brett Wallace,
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 14 is discussion and vote to approve the CIC bid of $23,895 for establishment of electronic timekeeping upon the recommendation of legislative committee.
So moved.
Jeremy makes the motion, seconded by
Lori.
Lori. Any discussion? Teresa?
Where are they gonna be located at? Which facilities have these?
Those are going to be in the highway department, health department.
Wait a minute.
What's that?
So wait a minute.
Okay.
Highway and health,
Sheriff and courthouse.
It's not gonna be in the health department. We don't have authority for the health department to do that.
Did you see the MOU from 2021?
Highway department getting one, anything?
he said highway, he said highway.
Are you aware of the MOU from 2021?
Which one?
Well, this is just what, from the agreement from the health department, and it says the highway department, the health department, animal control will continue current timekeeping and payroll practices. And there is a slew of documentation, and I know that there's a conflict between Steve and his grants and how the county manages payroll, time, employee time, things like that. And Steve has the documentation, and he sent it to me, or we discussed it at the board, that the health department is exempt from timekeeping because it interferes with his grants. So before we probably ought to look into the health department specifically before we.
How does, I'm just helping me understand how
Sure.
timekeeping is tied to or has anything to do with grants.
Steve, you want to?
Well, why don't we go ahead and pass this out real quick
Yeah.
here, and that's the easiest way, because it's very complicated. You pass that down. For everybody.
I've got it on email, so.
You have yours, you can email to them too.
Yeah.
For one, health department's a lot different than the other departments and that.
We have a governance body. Our grants, we get $300,000 a year from the county. We have a $1.3 million budget. So we have to generate money with grants, and we have to do the fee for service and that. And our product is our service. It's our service. When we get a state and federal grant, it is for a term, and it is for the state fiscal term. A lot different than the highway department. Does anybody still need one of these? Anybody? Everybody has one? Highway department, they get a grant, they work on a bridge, it's a project. And so they spend their time and then resources building that bridge. We basically work over a term of a period of a state fiscal year doing that particular program. And our grants range from like $106,000 to $2,100. We serve the Illinois Department of Public Health, we serve the Illinois Department of Human Services, and the Illinois Environmental Management Agency. Our $2,100 radon grant basically is an educational grant that helps new construction in Shelby County put in the required amount of passive or active mitigation equipment to reduce radon levels in their homes. And for $2,100, we have to put 40% matching. And to do that, and have someone continuously working over 12 months in that program, we have to maintain our own timekeeping system. We have to maintain that. And our timekeeping system in itself is approved by the state health department, and for us to be able to manage the grants properly and to be able to allocate our time and benefit time across basically a dozen grant programs that range from that range of $2,100 to $106,000. You as taxpayers pay $14 a year for a health department. So we subsidize that with these grants, these federal and state grants. We had a review on May 22nd, 22. They reviewed all our timekeeping, reviewed all our gathered information. We have no findings. Everything's fine. We have to go every year and file a internal control questionnaire, and we have to file a risk assessment with every grant whether or not our methodology has changed or not. And if we do, we have to get approval prior. So we have to control this because it's not the same as just working in the factory. You're working from 8 to noon to 12 to 1, and you're putting tires on the assembly line, and you're watching people and that. But the ability for us to manage our own time allows us to do many things that we could never do before. Like be able to go out and inspect your festival, make sure that the stands are clean and sanitary, and that the refrigerators are all working in that. Because that affects compensation time. Compensation time, we allow up to 40 hours of compensation time per year per employee. And we flex that time off where it doesn't cost the taxpayer anything. It doesn't raise your IMRF net. So for us to be able to manage these grants, we have to be able to manage our time because our actual service is time, and how it is all reviewed is reviewed on the activities in the particular programs, which is contractual, which is delivery of the program and outcomes that happen, and it's reviewed on the time spent in the program that's been reviewed by the state and budgeted at that point. So the benefit time in itself that we have to manage is basically offset to make a 7-hour day so that we can allocate that properly, because benefit time is covered by the grants. So say it was 6 hours or whatever, and you have to go ahead and put in 1 hour vacation or do this, then there has to be a whole different mechanism to be able to do that, and it doesn't balance out to keep us in line with the grant. So the health department operates as a non-for-profit fund accounting type of entity, much different than any other department. And that's why we can't do anything like this. And that's why we have to maintain our own timekeeping system, which is approved by the state and reviewed. I'm happy to forward to you the federal review on May 22nd that shows we have no findings, no material findings, everything checked out. And why did we have that review? We had that review from 2020 when the auditors came in here and made a lot of claims about how things were being done and how things are being transpired. And we had review, and the only thing we had to do is do a personnel evaluation. We do personnel evaluations. I challenge you to tell me what other departments are doing personnel evaluations every year. Our personnel evaluations are basically tied to the assignment of the individual employee in that particular program, whether or not they're meeting the deliverables and outcomes in that actual grant program. So that's why we can't be involved with this particular thing and be able to manage all the dozen grants, because there's a lot of different times. Our grant doesn't have to be done in one day or two. We have 1 month that we have to do what's called electronic expenditure document, and then we have to do quarterly reports where we have to review after the fact to make sure that everything's on budget in that. So that's where I'm at with this. Questions? Yes, sir.
So, does the county not write your checks?
County does write their checks, but they're paid by the Board of Health. Board of Health is a governing body. You're not the employer of the health department. You're not the employer of the executive branches. Yeah. Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I have no problem doing the payroll like we do it, and everything's been checked out. I mean, we give time files. I mean, we give we report everything to the auditors. We send it down. We have 2 signatures on them, and it lists the holiday pays on there and so forth and that. But we have to maintain like a 35-hour work week on those particular payroll subs. If they don't have benefit time to offset that, they don't get paid the money. And the fact that we, mostly all our individual employees, myself, my director of environmental health, my director of nursing, are individual line items. So if we're talking about overtime, we want to talk about the highway department. Highway department works 40 hours, they get paid time and a half for their overtime, they just pay them the money. We have a lot of different benefits. We have merit, we have merit terms granted by the Board of Health. They have the authority and legal opinion. We have sick time, we've got vacation time and so forth and that. But we have to basically show, because when we're evaluated and tested, which we were, that the time we take offsets the time that we're billing to the grants, because we are service industry. We are all our product is service, that it basically equals to a 35-hour work week, which is straight time. And so if you took a day off, it would show on our payroll record, it would show that we worked that day because we're getting paid that day. And but if it was a holiday, it would show we got holiday pay. And then we keep that internally, and they come in and review that. So that's where we're at. Okay, who's first?
Mr. Chairman, it's obvious to me that we are staring at a memorandum of understanding that I wish I had received prior to this board meeting, because it is abundantly clear that this CIC bid will be in a direct violation of this MOU, so I would like to see you take some action to remove this item and move on.
Can I withdraw my second? Can I do that?
Sorry.
Can I withdraw my second?
Is there a withdrawal of the motion?
Not yet.
Since this information was not provided ahead of time, and at least one member.
I apologize, I just got it yesterday and I
Well, we have read-ahead material for a reason, and it solves a lot of these issues, that we weren't afforded this.
Jeremy?
I just wanted to understand, is it his position that this Attorney General opinion precludes the county from, using an automated timing system?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm talking about the health department specifically, not the other departments at all.
Okay, well,
I mean, we're not in the courthouse working from 8 to noon to 1 to 4 every day.
I have a simple question for you.
Okay.
If it's yes or no, is it your position that as it applies to the health department, that this Attorney General opinion precludes the county from mandating electronic time?
On the health department, yes.
Okay. I have a legal opinion that is not the case. This is not what this opinion says.
Well, then you have a union issue. I'm going to file a union contract. The union contract says that.
All right, well, the board will, let you know. I'm just telling you that my assessment of this opinion from the Attorney General does not comport with what your representation of what this opinion says.
I'm just giving you a copy of the Attorney General. I'm not making a representation on that.
So my The only reason that I asked the question is, so that the board would know that the state's attorney's position with respect to what this is deals with the setting of compensation, not the keeping track of hours. All the things that have been articulated here deal with the application of the time, not necessarily the tracking of the time. And this is clearly, this opinion, if you read it, talks about setting a compensation. It has absolutely nothing to do with keeping track of the time for the compensation.
Yeah, that was something I was thinking was, all this is record keeping. It's timekeeping. You work when you work, you don't work when you don't work, and the time clock is going to keep track.
That's easy to say, but really, it's easy to say if we work in the courthouse and we didn't go out into the field, and we didn't do your festivals, and we didn't go out and have septic systems that run late in the afternoon and those kind of things like that. Contractors went inspections, they're taxpayers too in that. The statutes have not changed, over all these years. Even that was a legal opinion from 1978. The statutes have not changed; it remained the same. We are paid by the Board of Health from the County Health Fund. That's very clear in the statutes. Most of you have gotten that before whenever we had talked about the Public Safety Committee and that. And again, in 2020, I've told the auditors, it's written in the audit report, we will follow what the union contract says. And the union contract says, until at least this point, August of '24, that you cannot change the timekeeping practice at the health department, per the contract.
Where's the contract in this document handed out?
At the back page.
Then you're suggesting then that
The health department be exempt from the county's payroll system. Other departments could be in that system.
well, but if you're citing the contract, that covers all those other agencies too.
No, it doesn't. It's specific in there. It has highway department in there, though.
Actually, I'm going to disagree with you on this too. It says the individual
Well, I
department
didn't write that.
have records, continue to be recognized official records for payroll purposes. So if it's mandated by this board that the department head maintain its records electronically, then it would comport with the memorandum of understanding. I'd be happy to talk with Ms. Nagel again. I'm sure she would enjoy the conversation. But this does not preclude the county board from giving direction to the department.
Well, then I need to look for a new job, and I can't, take the responsibility for managing your funds if I'm going to be under micromanagement and I don't have any flexibility to do the programs. So,
May I address the chairman, please? Mr. Chairman, I'm not attempting to engage in a debate as to what the proper policy is. That's for the reserved for the legislative body or board here. I'm just simply addressing that the representation as to what this means in the context of a labor matter is not consistent with what the learned gentleman had represented to the board as what this means. So I'm simply attempting to point out that even if there's a grievance, I'm more than capable of addressing that kind of grievance.
Lori.
As a point of discussion, I briefly heard the chairman of the legislative committee mention that the highway department, the sheriff's department, the courthouse would have this system. And with the health department being in question apparently after you said it, are there any other departments?
The highway's listed on
I'm
this
asking
too.
the chairman of the legislative committee, please. Are there other?
Those were the four facilities that would have.
Okay, I got lost in the conversation around that. So was the committee aware that there was a conflict in the meeting?
No, not till about 10 minutes
No,
ago.
I just got that, Steve just communicated that to me, so
when
I
the
didn't.
agenda came out at the end of the day. That's the first time I knew it was timekeeping system on the agenda. This has been discussed before in the past. You'll can basically see that.
Yes, please.
Part of the reason, and this did come up a couple of years ago, 2 audits ago, the issue was every single timesheet that's been turned in for payroll since we started keeping paper timesheets, not one employee in the health department has taken 1 hour of benefit time. Not personal time, not vacation time, not sick time, not merit time, not anything. It took over a year of doing that to even get them to put holiday, because when they were turning in timesheets, even on a holiday when nobody was present, it would say the timesheets that I receive in the office said 8 to noon and 1 to 4.
Yeah, we turned.
So then in the
record
prior, with the auditor that this became an issue, in conversation with them, there are separate timesheets in the department head, which is why this MOU was saying the official records, but yet I get timesheets to which we base pay on, that we write checks out, and we have employees in Florida posting on Facebook and clear, but yet I receive a timesheet that says they're in the office. And then that has been a part of the issue, which led to that MOU. And so what are the official time things? When I get timesheets, we process payroll. They go to Jessica's office to be an official record of the county, but we've now been informed they're not an official record of the county. So my question has always been, what is? But is it proper timekeeping if somebody's out sick, on vacation, to turn in a timesheet to the payroll department that says they're in the office from 8 to noon and 1 to 4?
That's a payroll record, and that's what they're getting paid on, because they're using benefit time to keep it, to get paid per that day. And they all get benefit time. We all keep it internally. It's available. The auditors review it. It's all internally. We submit that to the auditors. Wi-Fi had no problems with what we were doing, because they understand not-for-profit funding. And we had no citing on that from Wi-Fi. We had citing on that in 2020 from Weston Company, but the prior year we had no finding from Weston Company in that. And basically our state, because of the 2020 review in that particular finding, we got another review again, which was in May of 22nd from DHS, based on that audit report. And we had absolutely no findings whatsoever. And Julie, you can send that out to the whole group. You've got that copy there of the most recent one. And the Treasurer's Office did a good job. They gave us the financial stuff from that and that. But if I was to turn in a timesheet with 5 to 10 different levels of metrics and that, like merit, sick, vacation time, military leave, compensation time and all that, there's just going to be no way for me to manage to properly allocate these across these particular grants. It's a reverse type of system. It's a non-for-profit funding account system. It's not the guy sitting in the manufacturer factory working from 8 to 4 every day and clocking in and clocking out. The auditors from Weston Company wanted us to click in and out between every grant, and they wanted us to track every minute of the day. And Mark was in there when we talked about that. Remember that, Mark? The 1 minute of the day, and you said, well, that would be pretty hard to do, to track 1 minute, everything, every phone call, track everything by every grant. And that. The contractual arrangement is this, guys. They're paying us X amount of dollars for outcomes and deliverables and that. This is why they give us the money. We've got the reviews, and that's another thing Weston Company failed to do. They did not look at the reviews to reasonably conclude that the grant was being fulfilled and being done. And typically in the past, it's been mostly having to worry about being in compliance with the state and federal. And I can sit here all day and talk about OMG guidance and 200 codes of federal regulations if you wanted to. It's all written with reasonable in there. And for us to track every minute of the day and report everything to the treasurer, when the authority rests with the Board of Health, is just more than I can do myself.
Mr. Chairman, we had a forensic audit on the payroll in one department, Sheriff's Department in the county. It just covered the payroll, it just covered one department, and it just covered a 5-year time period. And it showed almost $750,000 worth of error. That was mentioned in the legislative committee meeting where this was approved as a primary motivating factor.
Mr. Williams,
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you bringing that up. Any overtime we have is on an appropriation line item. It's fully transparent to anybody. In fact, until COVID, we hadn't had any overtime, except maybe up to $1,000, and that's to pay them off in comp times in August. And past boards have said we have the best payroll in the county because it's always on budget.
Then there shouldn't be a problem, should there?
Well, there shouldn't be a problem for you to audit it if you like.
So, if I can finish. Go ahead. That was mentioned in the legislative committee meeting as a primary motivating factor for the institution of electronic timekeeping, time clocks. Based on what I'm hearing from our legal counsel, if this is a problem and there's going to be a grievance, sounds like he doesn't have a problem handling that. If it's found that this is somehow incorrect or improper, then the time clock in the health department can be yanked off the wall. In the meantime, it looks like the documentation we've been provided does not line up 100% with what we're being told, and I'm going to press my motion. If I could get a second, please.
I'll second it.
So Lori, you're a second, and Matt seconds the motion, correct?
I guess I have a question for Steve when we're in discussion.
Yeah.
I think I just heard the treasurer say, and I don't know how many employees are at the health department, but I think I just heard her saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that in 3 years, there's been nobody who's shown, at least the records that she has shown that nobody's taken vacation time?
No, we keep all the benefit time in-house, and we have issue a payroll record. That payroll record doesn't necessarily cover benefit time. It's covering hours being paid. If you want to come see who took what time, we have that available.
But isn't the treasurer the keeper of time, so she's tracking personally?
No, we have our own timekeeper.
She's not tracking, she's not the one who's supposed to be tracking the...
Tracking payroll.
Yeah, tracking the payroll, all of the benefits that the county normally gives and...
Is my payroll out of whack? Have I went over budget?
I guess that's not my question. She's saying that it sounds like the legislative committee's saying we're looking for accountability.
And when did you guys discuss this with any department heads? I know I have not been contacted.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions. So the legislative committee is saying we're doing this, it's applying across the board. It has some complications for the highway department too, because they don't always, report directly to the highway department. They might report directly to a job. But that all can be worked out.
Highway department is different than us because you're working 40 hours a week, you're getting paid time and a half, which is going to raise your IMRF. I guess we can do that. We can change our budget and we can work 40 hours a week, maybe 4 10-hour days, and we can put a big pot of money there if you want anybody to do any inspections on the weekend and those kind of things. And we can raise the IMRF if you like.
So you're saying that your department keeps track of all the personal time,
Absolutely.
sick time, vacation time?
Yeah, you can come down and see it.
So when you submit time to her...
It's a payroll record, not necessarily. It's where she's getting paid, we're getting paid on from work at 8 to noon, 1 to 4, right?
How does the treasurer know how many hours of vacation?
They don't. We keep that in-house. Benefit time, per that legal opinion, is rests with the Board of Health.
There's nothing that you've cited that precludes timekeeping, because
time and timekeeping and grant management.
the Attorney General MOU specifically deals with the application of time. There's nothing that you've cited that precludes the health department from being tracked by a timekeeping system. There's nothing you've mentioned legally.
I can do it. I can turn the exact same thing I'm doing right now. It'll say 8 to noon, 1 to 4. Are you not going to pay the employees?
I think the greater point is legislative committees bringing this to the recommendation to apply
without discussing with any department heads
to the agencies, and it's a reasonable accountability to apply it to all the agencies. And I've not heard you cite an actual legal carve-out for the health department.
Well, it goes with the governance and authority, you need to read the document. But I understand what you're saying. I think we could sit here and talk about it for a couple hours if you like.
Jody? Go ahead, give a question.
I did, but I'm just gonna make a motion to call the vote.
Call the vote on the call. Let's see, it's a roll call vote, so all in favor of the roll call, or I'm sorry, if you're in favor, say aye, roll call vote.
Mark Bennett,
Yes.
Teresa Bain,
No.
Cody Brands,
Yes.
Tim Brown,
Yes.
Carol Cole,
No.
Julie Edwards.
I'm on the legislative committee and I'm still gonna say no.
Martha Fernhaber,
Yes.
Matt Kessler,
Yes.
Annette Martin.
Yes.
Keith McCormick,
Yes.
Tim Morse,
No.
Lori Nelson,
We're not doing anything wrong, guys, and we have the proof.
It's the short notice of information that is in question. That's, I've been reading it while I've been sitting here.
How come the department heads aren't invited to these meetings when you're going to put in
I'll abstain.
imply?
Yes or no?
Abstain.
David Ogden,
Yes.
Bobby Orman,
Yes.
Sonny Ross,
Yes.
Mitchell Sheff, Don Tate,
Yes.
Brett Wallace,
No.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 13 ayes, 5 nays, and Nelson abstains.
So item 15 is discussion and vote to approve the whistleblower policy on recommendation of legislative committee.
So moved.
Chairman makes a motion. Get a second on whistleblower. Any discussion on this?
If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Can we explain it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so whistleblower policy falls in line with the Whistleblower Act and the state statutes. It provides for a legal protection for employees or individuals to report law violations, perhaps constitutional violations, county policy violations, without being retaliated against by anyone with the county. And this policy cites that act. It provides anonymity for those wishing to report a law or policy violation. There's two ways to report. A form can be submitted that is anonymous, or the state's attorney's office can be contacted. That form goes to the state's attorney's office, or the state's attorney's office can be otherwise contacted by an individual wishing to make a report. We even provided a backup for that if the complaint concerns the state's attorney's office, they may report to the sheriff's office instead. So there was a backup there. In my research, I found several templates, both for local government and businesses. We had examples of existing policies. I think the policy from Joe Davies County is considered one of the better ones around. We got a hold of that policy and kind of tried to form an amalgamation of these different policies to get the best of all worlds. So the point is simply to offer a delineated path toward making a complaint about a legal or policy violation in the county anonymously without being retaliated against.
Where would this form be found?
It is, yeah, it's attached there.
But if the public wants to know, where would it be found?
It was mentioned in the committee that copies of the form would be next to the time clock. And could be put in an envelope, dropped in a box, and that box be checked every so often.
Was there discussion of maybe one, Jessica's got a box of claim forms out on her table? Would there be something like that, that if you're not an employee, if you're just a public, person in the public, you could find a form or?
We talked about that, and we kind of were concerned about putting the forms in an isolated area, because then if you were trying to get the form and, oh, I'm here at Jessica's office, they're going to know, in an effort to keep it anonymous. Where the time clock would be a busier, more central area, people coming and going by the door, a higher traffic area, it might not be as obvious as what they were trying to get. I mean, we're open, I think, for suggestions on all of that. It's just those were ideas that we talked about.
Or
Is there a reason why you would not do a PDF online that they get printed home and send in?
Sure.
okay, that's Dave's
Online.
point.
Absolutely, we can do that. No problem at all.
On the website?
On the website.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, may I address the board on this point? I'm fully endorse this idea of having an opportunity for people to report things, but I want to be clear about something. The United States Constitution has the right to confront accusers in a courtroom, so things that are anonymous do not, they limit the ability to either investigate, criminal, conduct or other forms of misconduct. And so you have to keep in mind that our rights and our liberties are predicated upon a recognition that we can confront those people who accuse us in a courtroom. I spend a lot of time in this courtroom, and I make a lot of accusations in this courtroom, and I have to be able to back it up, and I have to present witnesses so that the accused, can confront them. So when we receive anything on anonymous basis, if we can't investigate it independently to develop something independent, there's not a lot that I can do. So I'm all for people telling me about what's going on, and believe me, since I've come here, people have told me lots of things. And we take a very systematic approach to looking into those things. And sometimes they bear fruit and sometimes they do not. But I want to be clear with the board that you institute this policy, it does not affect the constitutional rights of the people who it's in essence, potentially targeting. So for instance, if I get, something that says Susie Q on the first floor, is cheating on her time card because she's having, some other person, punch her, time card in or something of that nature, that's all well and good, but if I take someone into a courtroom, that person is entitled to be able to confront those persons. And I just want to be clear that this policy will not enable me to do anything that doesn't allow that constitutional protection, because my obligation as a state's attorney is not just to prosecute people, but to protect the constitutional rights of even the accused. And it's one of those sorts of things that, when you hear about these kinds of policies, keep in mind that it bears with it that balance that has to come into play, and that all of you, when you adopt this kind of policy, have to understand that there may be inaction because of the inability to confront an accuser. Okay?
Yeah, I think when we were discussing it, the anonymous part was the initial complaint, or concern, I should say, the initial concern, to get either your acknowledgement or the sheriff's acknowledgement, depending, and then upon consultation with either one of you, obviously it would be discussed that if this is going to proceed, the anonymous in play.
Sure. The All Police has a public integrity unit. The FBI, engages in investigations. There's a whole host of investigative processes that can be, followed through on. And anything that comes to my attention, if it appears to be, criminal, whether it be a violation of state law or federal law, will get forwarded to those respective, law enforcement agencies.
So the policy says, this policy is pursuant to 740 ILCS 174, the Whistleblower Act. So if there is an act that already addresses this, what's our need to have it on top of, if you will, that act?
The need was to outline a procedure, like, who do you go to? Where do you go? You go to the state's attorney or the sheriff's office, and here's the form. It's going to be on the county website. It'll be next to the time clock is where the legislative committee discussed. So it just outlines a procedure.
So is there any mechanism that would cause some sort of indication on the form? So, for example, at each form, say we put 10 forms at each location, and you've got 1 through 10 on each one so you got 1 through 10, 11 through 20, 21 through 30, so on and so on. If that form has a number that has absolutely no bearing to any identification except for a two-digit number in this example, if it was then posted on the website that the responding agencies to that form would like to visit with whistleblower form number 7. And then it would also be instructed on the form that if you submitted a whistleblower complaint, pay attention to the website because your number could come up. Something like that would create the anonymous interaction.
I don't think that would.
I don't know. I'm just creating a suggestion.
I think that Lori's idea of putting the PDF on the website, and then they can make, if they're, wanting to proceed with it, they can mail it in a non-return address, anonymous form. It's on the policy there, where to mail it into. We wouldn't want to do anything initially that could potentially link it back to an employee. That's not going to encourage anyone to come forward.
Sure. I follow that.
So in the initial steps, I feel like we need to protect the employee.
I did read the policy. Did it change since maybe a month ago that you sent it out? Does it? My reason for asking is because this just says, this doesn't say form, but our action would be to vote to approve the policy recommendation. Is that what you sent out earlier? Does the policy state that you would create a form for this? Because it's been a few days since I read that. Okay, so it does have the form.
Do you have this?
Yeah. What you should have gotten has the form on the end of the policy. It's attached there to the end of the policy.
Okay. I remember reading it a few weeks ago, but when it first came out.
I think it's the third page in the document. Yeah.
Thank you.
So as far as the anonymity is concerned, we chose kind of the middle of the road option. There were templates and existing policies that we had to go by that said the complainant had to identify themselves in the form. And we saw benefit there. We also saw a lack of anonymity there. And I did find, I don't remember which one, but I did find one policy that had on there the last question on the form, who else can support your description or provide additional information? So there is at least some opportunity to identify someone who can corroborate. And we had the opportunity not to do that or to do that, and we chose the middle of the road by not having the original complainant identify themselves, but offer the name of someone who could corroborate. It was kind of the middle of the road for the anonymity thing, but I do understand the point.
So, thank you, and I skimmed through this. So to adopt the policy, this form would be what we're adopting. And does it line up with the already set state statute? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
The whole policy does. The form is just what the employee will send in. The form isn't mentioned in statute, but pages 1 and 2 conform to the policy, and the form, page 3, is responsive to the policy.
And that's what the committee is presenting. So the statute, the policy lines up with state statute, the form is this form that we're getting, so that's what we're writing. Okay, thank you.
Martha?
So I have two questions. One, this is for employees of the county, not just anybody in the public, correct?
I don't think we discussed it being for anyone other than,
I've never known a whistleblower policy to be for the public. It's for the protection of the employees. So I want to make sure we don't mess up. My concern is that we have anonymity, not an easy word to say, for the person that's filling out this complaint form and filing it, but yet we're asking them to provide the name of somebody else. So now I want to be anonymous, but I say, but go talk to Julie because she knows. And now we're putting her in the middle of I'm going to say being exposed, being approached, being discussed with, when I'm over here hiding behind anonymity. I'm not sure that that is an appropriate position to put somebody in. I have concerns with that.
and we can make that amendment, I have no problem with that. That was just the middle of the road option that the committee went with. We can amend that, we can amend that form right now.
I don't think if you're not willing to step up yourself and say, I have an issue here, I'm blowing a whistle, I want protection, I don't want to be retaliated against. If I'm not willing to step up and put my name on it, I should not be putting anybody else's name out there.
Do you think we should change that last question from someone else to identifying the original complainant, them identifying themselves? Would that be better?
And maybe Rob can speak to this. If somebody makes an anonymous, the whole point of a whistleblower policy is to protect the person that's blowing the whistle. So if they're anonymous, how do you know who you're protecting? I don't know the answer. Maybe you do.
Well, that's the danger of, the anonymity. One of the rules that we have, from an evidentiary standpoint, is a hearsay rule. Because we don't want to have people say, well, somebody told me, but I don't want to tell you who. Because, the whole idea of, or at least our justice system is that, you don't have rights if there's no way for you to protect them, okay? So it's laudable that, there's this, effort to, advance these types of things. If you have something like, for instance, Crime Stoppers, they receive anonymous tips all the time, and they forward them on to law enforcement, and it's a very effective way to do it. And we're not going back to those people and say, hey, wait a minute, who called in Crime Stoppers yesterday at 3:20 p.m.? Let's go dump a subpoena on, the telephone company to find out who made that call. All right, we're not doing that. Maybe if there's like someone's calling, I'm shooting and killing someone, bang, 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 and it's all recorded in a call. Well, that might lead us to pursue a search warrant, even though there was an intent to be anonymous. So, if there's information with respect to misconduct of an employee or of that nature, that's a management issue that can be looked at objectively from facts. So, for instance, Susie Cream Cheese is, watching TV, 8 hours a day. She shouldn't be getting paid to watch TV. So if Susie Cream Cheese is doing that, management can say, okay, here's this issue. It could be addressed with the, department head without doing anything to identify who made that particular tip. There have been times where I've talked to a department head where I've said, you need to be on the lookout for this issue, but I will not do anything within my prosecutorial, capacity because it's not necessarily fair to spring this on somebody right now. But in the future, maybe things will be different. So, I can tell you that there's 10 different ways to approach a problem with, as a prosecutor, I could prosecute someone for a crime. I could say, you know what, there's a better way to handle this without necessarily going down that path. And I look for those things, especially in government, because a lot of people just don't know certain things. And we should afford them the opportunity and the benefit of the doubt, because if you walk into this room back here where the law library is, and there's books upon books upon books about every little statute, there's no way everybody can know everything. And, so we can't expect that from our employees. But if you see that someone's watching TV all day, and someone says, hey, someone should address that. Well, that would be something that would be a very easy managerial issue that wouldn't require, knowing, who it is that made the tip or anything like that. And it's a very dangerous thing to, in essence, create a world of snitches. It is a real powerful tool. It can be very helpful, but it can also be destructive to the fabric of society. And so I would caution you all that when you adopt these kinds of policies, you have to understand that there's the approach to it, and then there's the implementation of it that requires a certain degree of character and recognition of the rights of others that can't just simply be ignored and looked at in a vacuum. And this idea will go to Susie Q, because she knows who's been doing this bad thing. It is destructive to the employment environment.
I'd just like to make a point to this whole conversation is actually, I would rather see a signature on that form to put teeth into the complaint. If they're gonna, if they've got a legitimate issue is recognizable, at some point they'll have to stand up to it.
Well, I think the point of anonymity is that, and I think that's why this goes to, the state's attorney, and if the state's attorney's office is the issue, then the sheriff's, because based on what that complaint is, they're gonna know what type, if any, of investigation needs to be had, right? So they're not gonna turn around and, megaphone it out. Hey, Martha turned in a whistleblower thing, right? They're gonna keep that person anonymous, but they need the help of that person to investigate. So I agree with you, Bobby. If you want to make a whistleblower complaint, put your name on it, have a discussion with the state's attorney and or the sheriff. They're going to keep that part private and confidential, but having something on here to call somebody else out that has additional information is just not appropriate.
The whole point of my comment was, if you're going to put your name on something, then at least there is a two-way street of information if need be. The other part of it is, too, the policy illustrates protection. So if that protection is violated, then whoever is harassing the whistleblower, that's all in the statute. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Let's go with Julie first.
Well, okay, so why don't we just amend the form
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do.
to remove all of that information at the bottom? This form is just to initiate contact between the state's attorney or the sheriff. And once that happens, then the state's attorney or the sheriff can decide if the complaint has merit or not. It's not for us to decide if somebody's complaint is meritable.
So you want to remove the last question there?
I mean,
Because I'll go for that, yeah.
sure.
Do we want to include the complainant's name? So while we remove that
We
last
have a motion on the table. We're in discussion. You had the motion?
I was going to, I was kind of asking Julie.
We're kind of still
No.
discussing.
What are we amending? So.
Let's remove.
The business on the table to amend.
Sure.
What is the business on the table?
I will make the motion to remove the final question on the form, which says, who else can support your description or provide additional information? And in its place, add a place for the complainant to identify themselves to either state's attorney or sheriff, whoever they turn the form into. Is that what you were thinking, Julie?
If they want to identify it, I mean, I don't think they should be forced to identify themselves until they get into a conversation with the state's attorney or the sheriff.
And if they want to leave it blank, they can.
Do we want to send this back?
But they have to, the state's attorney is going to have to know who to contact. They're going to have to know who to contact, so somebody's name has to be on it somewhere.
Let's send this back to committee.
All right.
Do you want to withdraw your motion? Or
Sure.
no motion on the floor? Item 15 is no action, going back to committee.
Hey, Bobby,
Yes.
did we skip item 9?
Yes. Discussion done.
The sheriff
Safety Committee request that the board approve the bid of Neola Police Department for the purchase of this surplus trailer.
So,
This amount is a reasonable and fair amount, and I'd like to call a vote.
the call vote's been called, so, a roll call, please.
We're not spending money.
Yeah, we're not spending, but we're, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 17 is committee reports. Carol.
I have one from the airport. For June, the airport serviced 108 customers who purchased $9,244 in fuel, which I think is great, you know. We had our first fly-in, drive-in car show on Saturday, had a lot of success with it, 40 vehicles, 4 airplanes, had helicopter rides, nothing but good response. I could list all the people who donated raffles, but I won't because we've been here for 3 hours already. We're going to do it again next year, so just thank everybody for the support.
Any other committee reports?
The Shelby County Health Department, they did the unsealing of their bids for the building. They did not get any bids for the work, so they're gonna rerun the bids in the Decatur, Pana, and Effingham area to try to see if they can get some bites. On August 3rd, there will be a physical clinic for Shelby County for the kids going back to school. And they were awarded a Strengthening Illinois Public Health grant in the amount of $350,000 to be paid over 5 years. So they're doing good with their grants at the health department.
Any other committees? Heard from several of them already today.
Well, the dive team had a meeting Monday. Sunny and I were at the dive team meeting Monday.
Would you like to report on anything?
There's a lot of people there. The dive team was represented there. There's a lot of concerned members of the dive team right now.
Any other committee reports? Okay, moving on to chairman updates. I know this kind of goes hand in hand with committee reports and chairman updates, but yesterday was actually the conclusion of the harvest of wheat. I haven't got the settlement sheet on that yet.
I do.
Oh, you do? Great job. What did you get?
I went to FS today, and we are going to receive a check for $117,469.04. We had Kenny brought in 20,114.61 bushels of wheat, and the ladies at the office told me that's some of the best wheat that they got in this year.
Yeah, I sent somebody over there this morning to get that check, and it's already been mailed, so. Anyway, there is some things we need to address in a farm committee meeting of trespassing, just so everybody knows. It's gonna be an issue that we're gonna have to do some due diligence in figuring out how we mitigate destruction of property. So that's coming down the pipe. Other than that, that's all I've got. Number 19 is chairman appointments. I'd like to appoint Kenny Schwindel to the board of review.
So moved.
Jeremy makes the motion, seconded by Sonny. Any discussion?
I've got something on this issue.
Go ahead.
It was provided to me by an attorney.
Oh, yeah?
the version of the Illinois Constitution in effect in 1980 when the referendum was passed to allow for voting for the Board of Review provided for such a referendum. It also says that any changes to how they are to be selected could only be done by another referendum. This was provided to me by an attorney. So I would say that, and then also too, I've got a Attorney General's ruling on this too, about backfilling of a position if somebody quits. But I would say that since the person that had the position resigned, I question, number one, I don't know what party this person is affiliated with, but the person that had the position was a Democrat. And then on the agenda, there are 2 appointments for this, and they both live in the same district. And there are 3 districts. There should be 1 from each district.
Okay, so the referendum that you referenced, was it a lawful referendum to begin with?
I don't know, but it's been law since it was done.
It's been law since it was done.
It's been in effect. It was voted by the people. It was in the Constitution that was in effect in 1980.
The Constitution was 1980. Go ahead, Lord.
So I was directed by a public official to the election code to discern whether the referendum was lawful at that time or not. In the election code 10 ILCS 5/28-1, the questions of public policy which have any legal effect, which this does, shall be submitted to referendum only as authorized by a statute that provides or by the Constitution. I went back to the tax code. There is no statute that allows for it to be set up this way by a referendum according to the population.
Was that the way in 1980?
This is the law. It is. And before that time,
It was that way in 71 because the Constitution was written in 71.
I was also directed to a public act. I requested the statute that allowed for that to happen. Nothing ever came to me. The question was also raised that the law changed at a certain time in the 80s, but the only change that happened was regarding the maximum population of 150,000, which we did not meet, up to 3 million. There has been nothing surfaced, and I've asked for the statute that allows it to change, and no one can provide it. I've been looking for 6+ weeks. So if somebody has the statute that allows it to be changed, that'd be great. You got it. That allows a county of our population to be changed. Do you have?
Article 7.
I mean, is this public comment?
Well, being you have something in writing in your hand that you would like to bring forth, I'll allow this information.
Okay, so this is what I have. It's Article 7, Section 4, Part C of the Illinois State Constitution. This is from the 1970 version that Ms. Vane was referencing. Each county shall elect a sheriff, county clerk, and treasurer, and may elect or appoint a coroner, recorder, assessor, auditor, and such other officers as provided by law or by county ordinance. Except as changed pursuant to this section, elected county officers shall be elected for terms of 4 years at general elections as provided by law. Any office may be created or eliminated, and the terms of office and manner of selection changed by county-wide referendum. Keep going. Keep reading. No, that's it. That's it right there.
So it says by law or referendum. Well, if a referendum is only qualified by a population, then
This was given to me by a lawyer as well. So this is from the Illinois State Constitution. I'm not claiming to be a constitutional scholar, but I know Ms. Nelson isn't, and I know these two guys aren't.
I read your piece. Thank you.
Yep.
I don't think you've already read it. So call vote.
Well, I also had the other question about you're wanting to select 2 people from the same district.
Right, so the referendum was not lawful when it was passed in 80, or 81 or 89, whatever it was.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
wasn't
it was not
legal.
lawful then, so the districts are not lawful. Neither is none of that is lawful.
Gotcha.
And furthermore, what option do we have today? Are we gonna say the board of review is not gonna operate this year?
You had somebody on the agenda last month that you wouldn't call and give her the appointment. So are you gonna put two people out of the same district on this?
That was provided that the appointment was according to a referendum. All in favor of Kenny Schools, the board of review, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign.
Me. That's the way to do that.
Teresa, no vote. Greg Brown to the board of review.
Make motion.
Lori, second by Sonny. All in favor, any discussion?
Are these people here tonight?
Yep.
Oh, I guess you have. The other one here?
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next is Mike Weber to the ETSB 911 Board. This is a public safety sector appointment to the 911 Board to fill the vacancy of Troy Agnew, which resigned 2 months ago. Entertain a motion from Mike Weber. Martha, seconded by Dave. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Farm committee appointments to replace myself and Mark. I'd like to open the floor up to any nominations for the replacement of those two. Anybody have any?
Motion to table.
Motion to table. Second.
Why? Why?
We're stepping down and asking for replacements.
Well, isn't it your position to appoint somebody to those committees, since you're the chairman?
Fair enough. The committee can still operate. There's 3 out of 5 there, so.
Can we nominate some people, or can we,
Well, there's a motion to table on the floor. Is there a second?
and a motion to untable?
No, you vote no on the table. He's seconds the motion. Any discussion? No, I'm sorry, this is the motion to table. All in favor of the
Can you
motion?
discuss the motion to table?
No, it's either you table it or go back into discussion. So
So
if
we
you
have no
don't,
discussion on the motion to table.
if you want to discuss it, vote no on tabling, we'll go back to the motion. Motion to table's been Jeremy, seconded by Heath. All in favor of the motion for tabling committee appointments for the farm committee, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Who said?
Raise
Who
it.
said?
Yes, tabling, yeses, raise your hand.
So,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
are you a 10 or?
I'm not 10,
Okay.
Kessler is.
Okay, 10 would be Dave, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 10,
What's our quorum?
19.
So the motion to table passes. All right. So it passed with, aye votes of Matt, Jeremy, Tim Brown, Dave Ogden. Who do I have over here? Martha, Dawn, Annette, Brent, Steve.
Mitchell.
Voting yes to table.
Yeah, I got 10.
Well, now we don't have a chairman of the farm committee.
You want to be chair of the farm committee?
So who calls a committee meeting? You talked about having a committee meeting earlier. Who calls the committee meeting?
Yeah. You want to be the chair of the committee? It's as simple as that. It's just as simple as an assignment. You want to be the chair of the committee?
Sure.
Okay, Carol, be the chair of the committee. And we will have, hopefully have you 2 new members coming in next month. Any correspondences? None that I know of. Approval of claims. Discussion and approval of claims. Lori, what's the one that you need?
There's always something that has to be discussed about this thing. Is it not? Everything's good, okay.
Hearing no discussion, all in favor, we'll take a roll call vote, please.
Mark Bennett.
Yes.
Teresa Bank.
Yeah.
Cody Brandt.
Yes.
Tim Brown.
Yes.
Carol Cole.
Yes.
Julie Edwards.
Yeah.
Martha Farnhaver.
Yes.
Matt Kessler.
Yes.
Annette Martin. Keith McCormick.
Yes.
Tim Morse. Lori Nelson.
Yes.
David Ogden.
Yes.
Bobby Warman.
Yes.
Sonny Ross.
Yes.
Mitchell Shuff. Don Tate.
Yes.
Brett Wallace.
Yes.
Jeremy Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Next is item 22, public body comment. Before I open the floor, I would just like to say, if you're here on behalf of Dyson, there's a special meeting next Tuesday, right here at 7 p.m., I believe. So, just to throw that out there before we start public body comment. With that, we'll open the floor up. Sharon.
The 911 system, back on item number 8. Our 911 calls go to Christian County, and we're getting ARPA funds for the 911 system for radios. Do we, how are the funds shared? How are the payments shared? Because Christian County handles our 911 calls.
Okay. So, what the presentation was today was for the equipment for 911 to more fluidly interact with our agencies in Shelby County. The discussions that are in the background are basically saying that what we're trying to figure out is how do we get that big lump sum of equipment in place without completely breaking 911, plus we would potentially have ARPA funds available to buy the equipment that would be in the county. It would just allow 911 to communicate with our EMS.
Nothing to do with Christian.
With that said, the invoicing of it, if we create an intergovernmental agreement to say we will, both parties will agree to these terms of equipment and cost, the county will to the expense of the project. That's the discussion.
Because I don't think a lot of people in Shelby County realize when you call 911, it's going all the way over to Christian County, then they're calling back over here to have those calls, to have those services done. And
Right. Several years ago, there was discussions about merging with Montgomery County, and basically Montgomery County and Shelby Christian couldn't come to an agreement as far as to merge 3 counties. I will say this: it seems redundant that we have our responding agency at 911 in another county. However, it is a state down tiered effect, and it's probably going to get worse from here on out as far as the coverage area that 911 dispatch centers will cover. And it's not necessarily a if or when, but the possibility. From hearing things from the top down, it could get even broader. So, just so everybody's understanding of that, if we improve our communications within our county with a 911 dispatch center, then no matter what 911 does, we'll always have the ability to communicate well with the dispatch center. Anyway, thank you for your comment. Go right here in front of us. We have 5 minutes, and you can give up to 10 minutes